My name is Marla,
And my name is Josh.
and we are the Tilleries, and we are here to talk about our new homestead, Fruitful Roots. So I am actually from a very small West Texas town, but my entire life I have actually lived in town. But growing up, I always had a lot of animals, even a pig, rabbits, all the cats, dogs. At one point, my family and I chased a goat around town. So there's always been a huge interest in animals for me. And only recently, in the past probably 5 years or so, have I been actually successful at attempting to grow fruits and vegetables. When I grew my first tomato, I was pretty excited because before that I had no success. And that kind of got me into canning and preserving and things like that.
I was born and kind of grew up for the first part of my life in the city. Dogs, really not many cats, hamsters, things like that. Then I think I was 12 or 13 when we moved to the country, and my parents kind of went all in. We obviously had a couple of dogs, got goats, then we got a Jenny, and then we got 2 horses and chickens and sheep and kind of everything. So I got a lot of that experience. And then when I was 15 or 16, I guess I was about 15, like my first job was working weekends as a ranch hand for a local rancher. We had like 3,500 acres and ran cattle and goats and sheep and stuff. So I got pretty good, albeit quick, education into animal husbandry and some other stuff. And then when I was 16, about to be 17, it was kind of like a dual credit thing with school. I did the Texas Master Gardener course. That's more lapsed and everything now, so I should probably do it again. But anyway, so I've had thankfully, a pretty good education in my life on some things. However, it's been years since Marla and I have been together, and even before, I hadn't been doing that kind of stuff. So it's been 10 years plus since I've really raised or done too much with livestock other than going and helping my parents, trim goat hooves and take care of chickens and build a few things. So
This is kind of something that we've been talking about pretty much since we got married. But what we had originally started talking about was 5 acres, kind of like what he was raised on, and then that eventually grew to we wanted at least 10 acres to do all the things that we really wanted to do and we're talking about doing. And this was even before we had the kids. By the way, we have 2 beautiful children, 1 little boy and 1 little girl. He is about to be 4 and she's about to be 2. And we're excited to bring them into this journey with us and kind of raise them around all of this. But we basically, so we wanted to kind of get the land, and then the more we actually started being serious about our search, we realized we wanted to do a YouTube channel. We kind of felt called to do it to just mainly share some amazing things that God has done for us, but also and I've watched countless homesteading YouTube channels, follow quite a few, and there's hardly any, number one, in Texas. They're starting to get more popular now, but there's really not a lot kind of having, I feel like, the mixed dynamic that we have, where he has more of the experience and I am more of the newbie in quite a few things. So kind of from my perspective, it's a complete and total education. But with that being said, I would like to point out that like I said, we've been looking at this for quite a while, and we have spent countless hours educating ourselves, taking courses, things like that. So it's not like we're just blindly going from suburbia to jumping into this, kind of head in the sand. We know what we're getting into. But with that being said, we also know that there are things that you can be taught, but until you actually get there and get started on them, you don't really know exactly the challenges that you're going to face. So we thought this would be a very interesting channel for people to follow, maybe kind of glean some ideas from us, or maybe kind of educate us too. If you've been down this road and you see that we're making a gigantic mistake, I would love to know what mistake we're making and why. I mean, I feel like I've had a huge emphasis on the YouTube channels and like the Facebook groups and everything lately, because I feel like you can read some books, but maybe one or two people are writing the books, and so you're getting one or two people's perspectives. But if you ask a question, like a homesteading group, you get 50 different responses, and it's people's wisdom that you kind of want to kind of get. So, like I said, if you've done this before and you think we're doing something that we could be doing better, I would love to know what it is and why it is. But so we wanted those 10 acres, and I feel like really over the last almost 2 years, we really started to kind of actually, get started on that. We had bought our house in Hutto. At this point, it's been, what?
2018.
It was almost 4 years ago. Caden's almost 4.
Yeah.
So we were pretty happy there. We knew that wasn't our forever home. We knew we wanted the land, but we had an amazing neighborhood. We were at the end of a cul-de-sac. There was a 10-acre spillway right beside us. We had one connecting neighbor.
Greenbelt.
Greenbelt. But even though we only had one connecting neighbor, all of our neighbors were actually amazing, and that made it pretty hard to leave. I feel like it's a place you could get very comfortable in.
Yeah, we had a good dynamic.
We had amazing neighbors. We also had an amazing church that we loved, that we were a part of. But even with these things, we knew what our bigger picture was. We couldn't depend on other people to, kind of make us feel, I guess, fulfilled in our lives. We wanted,
even though it was comfortable, like she said, and it was easy to get comfortable in that situation because we were surrounded by cookouts every weekend, or sitting in the front yard listening to music and letting the kids play in like the pool with all the neighbors, and we kind of just sat around and talked and stuff. Even though it happened on a regular basis, we still had the hunger in both of us for like, this is nice, this is enjoyable, this is good for this season, but this is this season, and there's more that we're supposed to be doing and looking for. We both started the call and the drive to find kind of land started, I think, hitting us more and more. And some of it more or less we started being able to take advantage of in the city there. We built a little small garden with some raised beds, and that kind of prompted even more of it, where she's like, I need more, like I want more, and I can just,
yeah.
kind of started spurning some of that hunger even more. So
He built me 4 raised beds, and I had some containers still, and that was amazing. And that's when I really kind of started, I guess, preparing our social media for what we were going to do. And so that first year, I had a amazing garden. It was very successful, and I was very happy with it because I'd only had containers before. But then the second year, what I couldn't really share was I didn't have a very successful garden because I didn't plant a lot. I really felt like we were going to have sold our house by that point. But then I realized that process was being put off. I went and got some starts at like Lowe's or something, and put those in the ground. So that's what I had. But even still, that was pretty successful. But we had been praying about it a lot, and I felt like we both started to feel like it was almost time. And we prayed about it together. We prayed about it separately, and we decided just to put our house on the market. We didn't have our place that we were going to go. We were actually working with realtors all over Texas, and they all knew about each other. Full disclosure. I had a couple of realtors in Arkansas and one in Missouri. In our hunt, what we had done was we started off listing off all 50 states, and we took 2 of those out just immediately. And then what we did was we researched the things that were very important to us. We are going to homeschool our children, and so we wanted a state that was favorable for that. We wanted, obviously, a pro-Second Amendment state, and just basically more freedom for your homestead, freedom for your own life kind of state, and which actually got us down to 5 states. They were Texas, Idaho, Oklahoma, Arkansas and Missouri. And I looked at a couple of those, like, absolutely not. No way. And his uncle actually lives in Idaho, and he was always like, yeah, y'all should come up here. I don't like the cold weather, so I was already a little bit turned off. But then that's when the prices really just kind of started shooting through the roof there and got really comparable to some of the prices here and even exceeded in some areas. So that quickly became,
No longer an option.
it was no longer an option for us. So I was like, okay, let's look at Missouri, which was getting slightly more expensive. And then I started looking at Arkansas. I was like, I don't want to live in Arkansas. And the more I looked at Arkansas, I was like, I could live in Arkansas. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful state. It was much more affordable than Texas.
Water everywhere.
Water everywhere. And I was still, I kind of looked at Oklahoma, wasn't as interested in that as Arkansas. We even actually put an offer in, sight unseen, on a house in Oklahoma. And I'm grateful that did not work out. It was one of those things where, like, if we get it, we get it. If we don't, God didn't want it for us. We did not get it. Thank Jesus. But we looked all over Texas. We worked closest with a realtor from Abilene, and she's amazing. If anybody needs her contact information, let me know. I'd be happy to share it with you if she's okay with that. She is actually part of the reason that we were able to get our property. So she had me on 2 lists, one for 10 plus acres with a house and one for 10 plus acres of just raw land. And in our budget, I got the raw land notifications a lot, several times a week, several times a day in a lot of cases. But any time that it popped up with the house, I was like, well, that would be easier to go in with the house. But we also kind of wanted to build because we've seen people go into older houses and just have a ton of issues. So we were like, if we build it, you know, we know what we're doing. If we're able to be there, you know, we kind of know exactly what's going into our home. There won't be surprises.
We had kind of areas too that we were interested in, not too close, but close enough to where I can commute. You know, I could commute to a job if my current job were to change, or where it wasn't too far from my current job so that I could continue doing what I'm doing as well. Mm-hmm. So we had several. We would put a bunch of kind of on paper, kind of like she said, other than states, we'd put a bunch of stuff in land that we were interested in as well. Things that were kind of musts, or at least in our opinion, musts, like, you know, groundwater or access to good water was kind of high on there. We had other things that were wants, trees.
We wanted some trees, not just flat land.
Yeah, not just flat land.
We would have loved to have a change in elevation. Yeah. That was not super high on the list because at that point we weren't getting super picky. Yeah. One of the things high on my list was a water feature, and a huge plus if it was spring fed, because in Arkansas they're everywhere. And every time I saw that, I'd get really excited about it. And then, you know, if it already had like septic in place and stuff like that, because once you start, especially now, start adding up the cost of that, it's pretty intense, and it's
getting worse.
It's getting worse, and I was like, man, this is, you know, I think we narrowed it down to about 10 things.
Yeah.
I really wanted to stay in Texas, but honestly, the more I looked at it, I would not have been upset to have lived in Arkansas, except I wanted to be closer to my family, and God has a sense of humor because we're now 30 minutes closer to the family, but we're still closer to my family. But so we made our list, and we continued to pray about it, but we felt the need to put our house on the market. And I like to plan things out. And so that was very much a giving it to God moment for me. But like I said, we prayed about it together and separately. And one morning during my Bible study, there was a verse that just like, it hit me. And God was like, you got to do this. Y'all are on the right track. Told him about it. And then so he was praying about it on his way back from work. Mm-hmm. One day or something, and he said that he felt like God just really laid it on his heart as well to do it. So even though we didn't have a clue where we were going, we just were like, okay, we're doing it. And we told people, but we didn't tell a lot of people because we were met with a lot of, I'm not going to say negative, but people weren't very understanding of why we were doing what we were doing. People at church were like, but why? Like, where are you going to work? Or people, like some friends and family, like, well, where are you going to go? Like, we don't know. We're just literally placing it in God's hands at this point. We know this is what we're supposed to do, so we know He's going to take care of us. It did not mean that at times I wasn't a little overwhelmed, but we just kept with it. So we got under contract really fast for way more than even the 3 realtors we had assess our home, for way more than that. So we're like, okay, well, we're definitely in God's favor at this point, because this should not have happened. We have the comps for literally the exact same floor plan, but theirs is updated, ours isn't. We got significantly more than they did. There was just a number of factors that the whole way it was confirmed that we were doing what we were supposed to do. So the time came that we were about to have to move out of the house, and we still didn't know what we were doing. So we actually ended up deciding, we're probably going to end up with raw land at this point. There's not many houses on 10 acres popping up anywhere. Let's get an RV. And then that way, whenever we do build, or we do get our land, we can just live on it and build. I spent what would equal out to days researching everything about RVs. We knew exactly what we wanted. But like this whole COVID thing, everybody wants an RV, right? So that was also competitive, but not as competitive as the housing land market. And after several weeks of searching, we found one about an hour and a half south of us that was a good deal. Wasn't the exact make that we wanted, but it was a great layout, and we were like, this is a good deal. We were about to go look at it. And then that day, one popped up a couple hours north of us that was the make that we wanted and the price range that we wanted. Like, this is the one we want. For a lot of reasons that were not our fault, it did not work out. And it's obviously a God thing that it didn't work out. It was hard to see it at the time because it was a very frustrating experience with the dealership. They did make it right, but the deal had already fallen through. So again, all of this was a God thing, but because we didn't go see the one down south, it sold. And I feel like if we had seen that one, we would have probably bought it. So that didn't work out. And I found out that the RV that we were supposed to get didn't work out on the day that we were having a garage sale to sell all of our stuff to live in an RV. And this was 2 weeks before we had to be out of our house. And we're like, what are we supposed to do now? His aunt actually came over that day for help on a Christmas project. And she was like, oh, by the way, I just found out that our rental home in Georgetown is going to be opening up in 30 days. Y'all can rent it if you want. I was like, thank you, God. So we ended up staying with his parents for a few weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks in the meantime. Then we moved into the rental house, which we've always wanted to live in Georgetown. And I will be completely honest, I love Georgetown. I love this town. It's been so much fun. Definitely ready to get out on the land, but I'm grateful for the time that we've had here. And I feel like we've fully utilized it, walking the kids everywhere to the parks, walking downtown, all the fun stuff. So this has been fun, and it's been a fun season for us, although it's been a short season. So anyway, we went on our Valentine's Day date.
Which we always do, not on Valentine's.
I'm a former restaurant manager. I don't do Valentine's on Valentine's. But we always do sushi. Friday. It was a Friday. It was the 12th. So we went to get sushi, and then we're getting in the car, and I just checked my emails. I was like, oh, hey, it's an email from the realtor that's 10 plus acres with a house on it.
This was in our budget. In the afternoon, probably like 3 or so.
Yeah.
A little bit later.
We're getting in the car, and I was like, hey, we've never gotten a notification for this particular town before, because it is usually way outside of our budget. And so I started looking at it. I was like, this is a pretty good deal. There's 19 acres, but there's a manufactured home on it. It's definitely the right price range for us. And then I was like, it's actually, part of it's wooded and part of it's not, which is amazing. And then there was a tank on it. I was like, man, this is great. So we drive back up to Georgetown. And we're part of a winery here, and so we just went in to have a glass of wine while we were looking at this property before we walked around a little bit. And he was looking at it, he was like, yeah, that's a good deal. Contact the realtor. So I did. Anyway, she did message back. She was like, yeah, that's a great looking deal. She goes, I'm going to be honest, it's a little bit further than I'm willing to drive at this point. But let me get you in contact with the realtor there. And she did, and that ended up being a blessing for us as well. So that realtor called me the next day, and we couldn't meet that Sunday because we were working at our church, but then he was working Sunday afternoon at his church. And so we, Sunday wasn't going to work, but they were supposed to take offers on Monday. So we pretty much had to rush up there and look at it, but they kind of held off to let us go look at it. Since it was short notice, we did have to take the kids with us, which when you're looking at land is not ideal because they want to get into everything. And then they started trying to play with all the toys that were in the house, and I was like, no. But they really liked it. That was a plus. So we walked down to the tank. We kind of looked at some stuff, but we didn't have the opportunity to take our time and go through the land like we would have normally done because they were not making it easy for us. So we looked at the land, told the realtor we'd let him know. We got in the car, went and ate, talked about it, and decided we put in an offer at a little bit above asking. Even though it was a great deal, we were putting it in God's hands. Like if it's supposed to happen, it will. So we put in that offer, and we made the offer. Other than the price point, we made the offer as attractive as possible in all the other ways. And then the next day, the realtor calls and he's like, "Look, they really like your offer. It's not the best offer, but they like your offer. If you would do, $5,000 more, it's yours." We're like, man, we really didn't want to go over asking. We're still gonna have to build a house there at some point. Okay, fine. We talked about it all night. We're like, let's do it. Let's just go ahead and do 5,000 more. So we were under contract. Got an inspection on the house because even though it is an older manufactured home, it is going to be where we're living for an undetermined number of years. Our children are going to be living there. So we wanted to make sure that it was structurally sound. It passed with flying colors. The inspector was very impressed with the condition of the home. He actually even mentioned that if we passed on it, please let him know so he could put in an offer because he knew what a good deal it was. And then we were like, no, we're going to keep it. So at that point, we had the opportunity without the kids to actually go thoroughly walk through the land. And at one point we were walking through and I looked at him and I was like, if we had actually explored this land before, we would have never hesitated at 5,000 more. He was like, I completely agree. And so we knew we got an amazing deal.
Yeah.
And even people like realtors that people we've shown are just like, that is severely underpriced. That's a great deal.
Yeah. And then, so some of the amazing things about it that we were very happy with, it's got pipe fencing all the way around it. Like I said, it's already got a house. It's got a nice sized tank on it. It's got a couple of barns, a loafing shed, a storage building, and stuff like that. And then the tank there's actually 4 springs on the land, and 2 of them feed into the tank. So there's actually 4 underground springs. So it's pretty good. Yeah. So it's pretty good. And it's in a very private location, which is good.
Very private. So yeah. Our entire list that we made of our wants, our needs, and then even our wants were checked off. Yeah. Even the closer family, even by 30 minutes, all of them. And I will say that during the entire process of searching, we got pretty, I'm not saying patient, but there was a couple of times we were like, man, this looks like an okay deal. It's not exactly what we want. But we never followed through with it. And I am just so grateful to God that we did not. That he even at one point laid it on my heart to just be patient. It's like, come on, God, but when? He's like, be patient. And we were. And we actually got it. And every time we go through the land, we're like, we never thought we'd find this in Texas because, a lot of and just side note, we were actually supposed to be in Arkansas the week after we found this place looking for land. Mm-hmm. So God's timing is just impeccable.
Yeah, we never thought, especially in this area, but in the area that it's in, we thought, if we're going to get more than 10 acres in Texas with features, we're going to have to go by the border or like
northeast.
Like far east, basically to Arkansas anyway, but there's just no way we're going to be able to afford it, if not. So, yeah, it was an amazing
deal. Deal. We have somewhere to live that's not an RV, which I'm very grateful for now. but it
4 times the size of one.
we get to actually also still build the home that we want from the ground up. So that's really exciting. And even this house that we're in now, it was, it's almost a third the size of the house that we had before. And so we already had to downsize anyway, which is good because this home is smaller than our last one, but bigger than this one. So every step of the way that we were not sure why things were happening has proven to have a point or a reason.
And a good thing will be, even though we're not going to be living in it forever, because we'll be in it for a while, we're going to be doing some upgrades and some cosmetic stuff. So there will be videos of that showing some different things that we're doing. Not dropping a lot into it, but just, put some makeup on it, as it were.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we've got. This is kind of what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And so here's video number 1 for us. And as all new YouTubers say, we appreciate any support that anybody could give us by, subscribing,
by
liking our videos, sharing if you feel so inclined.
If you got questions,
yes,
feel free to reach out.
Please, because we've also got our Facebook page going and everything. But we're trying to get this going. It's just going to take, I think in the beginning it's going to take a little bit longer in between videos just to get things going. We don't want to just jump in too quickly, but we want to keep everybody updated along the way. So we'll talk about more in our next video, kind of like what our plans are. But for now, this is who we are and what we're doing. So welcome along for the journey if you choose to join us. But we're excited.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll see y'all in the next one. God bless.